as we have determined and as you have explained to us. Among the tasks of the night watch are that those on duty must be sure to bring anything that might become defective due to weathering under the roofs or clear away any goods that are in the way. With regard to the learning of the existing material, we must also set some deadlines. The first material this applies to is the Law of Love, and the deadline is set for it at the end of October, which can be exceeded under no circumstances. The main principles of these teachings must be learned by each group member in such a way that they can freely recite these without any written assistance. This applies to all group members, except for Guido. And those who are not residents of the center are also included in this. A suitable test on what has been learned is to take place at the end of October. The meditation finally has to be pursued by every single group member in the future, including Roland and his mother Sisai, who, in the future, are to complete their meditative exercises in the center at least once a month for 2 hours, which also applies to Karl, Ida, and Madeline, with Madeline being permitted in this present situation because we have drawn off our control disk. From now on, she should truthfully strive and can no longer dedicate herself to meeting her sleeping needs, otherwise, we also must pronounce a ban on the use of the center in this case. These are the arrangements that I have to submit to you for now. On the other hand, I still have to discuss various issues with you that we only want to discuss among ourselves. Billy says, man oh man, that was a lot to take in. I can only tell you that I am going to go along with everything as long as nobody strikes back at me. Even if only one believes that he must strike back at me, then that's where I draw the line. Patar says the given arrangements apply to everyone, even to those who are of the wrong opinion that they are better than the often named fallible ones. But this actually applies to them, to those who are stubborn, rebellious, and disputatious, and, in particular, this also applies to Elsa and your wife, with the latter group member being of the wrong opinion that she has privileges as your wife and doesn't have to obey your orders and can, therefore, act according to her own illogical discretion and do as she pleases. Billy says you tell her this just once. Up to now, you have always thought that I have dealt with her relatively and that I think she wears a halo over her head. You tell her just once that she also must strive, and quite tremendously at that. Patar says I have just done this, and later, she will be able to read my words in the report, as will also be the case for Elsie. For her, I still have something to say that will not be pleasant to her ears. As in many other things, we were mistaken when we supposed that a stay in America for a longer period of time would change various deplorable traits in her. Instead, it has had the opposite effect because she has not been given any new impressions on her trip, which made her completely overwhelmed by the country of America, as well as by the people who live there. She has only seen a relatively tiny piece of the earth and, therefore, has the wrong impression that she has now seen and experienced quite a lot. She was and is not strong enough to see and grasp the reality of these things, which is why she should not further try to take over a comprehensive task in that country or elsewhere or take a similar trip again. Billy says she certainly won't just leave it at that, and she also won't be pleased about this. Patar says that is well known to me. In her stubborn and disputatious sense, she can find all kinds of excuses to explain her concerns differently. But now, my friend, we have other things to discuss. Unfortunately, I must draw your attention to some very unpleasant things. Certainly, you are well able to recall that on Wednesday, March 5th, Cesare Uegsega and her son Roland arrived at the center in an automobile late into the night, after which you then sat with them and Margaret Rose, who had been present for quite some time, as well as with your wife in the kitchen until well after midnight, and discussed and debated all kinds of things with them. At 3 o'clock, you were then called by my daughter Semiaza to a contact, after which both of you then met at around 3:05 and spoke about some rather unpleasant things in reference to Vreni and Beat, etc. As you were being called by my daughter to the contact, you had to go down to the forest clearing below the chicken's pond, but you did not notice that Roland, his mother, and Margaret Rose secretly followed you to spy on you and hid themselves in the storage area below the pond, where they observed you and my daughter. Thus, they saw Semyaza's faintly illuminated aircraft in the forest clearing, but also in the light itself, your friendly greetings and your entry into the aircraft. Neither you nor my daughter noticed any of this. Therefore, she left her aircraft hovering just 4 meters above the storage area, where the three were hiding. Only then did Semyaza notice on her apparatuses the three observers, who were obviously very frightened as the aircraft flew away in a very low altitude over and above them. But Billy says, but why did Semyaza tell me nothing about this? All of this is incomprehensible to me. Patar says, I just wanted to explain that to you. She told you nothing because she did not want to give you any concerns, since the three were in the dangerous vibration area of her aircraft. So she first came to me and Quetzal in order to inform us and to ask us what to do. Consequently, we troubled ourselves to analyze the situation and found that the three had bad consciences imposed on them due to their actions and, therefore, decided among themselves to maintain silence over their misstep against you and the group members because they expected a sharp rebuke from you. But their behavior will produce harmful consequences for them because, unlike you, they are not able to shield themselves against the strong vibrations of the aircraft. Therefore, all three of them will take consciousness damage, which will already soon reveal itself. Their consciousnesses will become confused, and soon they will suffer from different delusions and fancies, which will worsen over time, and they will no longer be able to escape from these for the rest of their lives. This will also, in the foreseeable future, lead to the fact that they will become alienated from reality and be removed from the scope of the mission. But this will still take some time, so you should still allow them to continue the tasks of the mission, etc. However, do not talk to them about their misstep or about what is imminent for them. Let everything happen in such a way, as it is unavoidable because the resulting horror and consciousness damage caused by the vibrations of the aircraft are absolutely irreparable. Billy says, what should I say, then? It is all so damn sorrowful. I probably should have paid better attention that no one followed me. But you could erase the memory in these three, which would certainly fix the damage. Patar says, this is truly not your fault because this lies solely with the three fallible ones who had doubts about the fact that you are actually in standing contact with us. They wanted to examine everything and did not listen to you when you explained to them that the vibrations, for the earth people and animals, are dangerous or even fatal. And because unlike you, they cannot protect themselves from these vibrations by their awareness, they have now just taken irreparable damage through their senselessness and distrust of you and your explanations. Unfortunately, your strange suggestion regarding the erasure of memory cannot be realized because the vibrations of the aircraft were so strong that the consciousness damage immediately appeared and, therefore, is no longer reparable. Patar's prediction was already fulfilled after a short time. Margaret Rosa's thinking became more and more confused until she died, completely confused, in 2001 at the age of 92. Also, Roland and Sissy Ruegsega's thinking already became confused very soon, quite obviously. In the end, Roland completely lost the memory of the fateful experience. Due to his confusion, he must be repeatedly admitted to psychiatric clinics. His mother, Sissy Ruegsega, likewise suffers from strong confusion. All three, soon after their experience, were already hit by severe delusions and crazy notions, from which they have not been able to recover up to today, May 1, 2003. Note made at the request of Fleur Rana. Billy says, yes, I have often explained that people and animals will take severe damage if they come within range of the vibrations of your ship, and that they will also take severe damage if you come into the vibration area of the Earth people. Patar says, I am well aware that you have explained these facts. But continue to listen because, in addition to the above, there is still another matter with regard to Ida and Karl Reinhard. Carl is honest and also very interested in the teaching of the Spirit.